Areas of blue on your screen are areas of low pressure into portions of not just the lower levels of the atmosphere, but also the higher levels. They're going to have to make their way past this high pressure ridge that's going to be building in this week. I'll tell you about the impacts that could be felt in terms of storms, but also drought relief from those systems coming up in this video. Thank you so much for joining me in this One Nation weather forecast for America. It is Saturday evening. Let's go ahead and talk about the hazards map that we have from the National Weather Service. First of all, we've had tornado watches issued into portions of Minnesota and Iowa as a result of severe weather ongoing there. We also have these heat alerts, the orange being your heat advisories, the pink being our excessive heat warnings, temperatures well into the triple digits in many of these communities. And with humidity factored in, you just need to make sure that you're staying inside. And if you do not have air conditioning, just please limit your exposure. Turn on fans. Do whatever you can do to get away from that heat for sure first here. And the heat is not going to let up as we go into our Sunday. Let's go ahead and get a look at those temperatures. All of these areas in the silver or that whitish color are at least around 88 plus degrees for us here. So we've got that into portions of the mid-Atlantic into the southeast. We also have that surging on up into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, as well as these triple-digit numbers back into portions of Texas. This is going to include places like Waco. This is going to go on over to Abilene. It is just going to be an extremely hot day. And then we've got temperatures in the 70s and 80s in the northern tier for your Sunday. Now, we do have a cold front dipping on down for your Sunday, so that is what's providing some of that relief in the northern zones. You can see we have a leftover low-pressure system, the one that produced all that rain in the southeast, making its way into the northeast. Then we've got this big severe weather bullseye zone from Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama stretching all the way on up the front into the Great Lakes region, Lake Erie, portions of Ohio for us there. This is east of Chicago, not to say one or two severe storms couldn't get started up in that area. But notice how the low-pressure system is just going to be sending some showers back around into the areas being affected by the severe weather on your Saturday. Now, here is that severe weather outlook for your Sunday. You can see the level 3 bullseye is going to go from portions of Ohio back over places like Nashville, Tennessee, getting in on this. Now, let's look at the severe hail outlook out of this. The highest hail risk is level 2, but with these hatched areas that go from southern Indiana back over into northwest Tennessee, as well as the zone in Arkansas that does include Little Rock and back towards the Arklatex, those zones we could see that 2 to 4 inch hail, which is certainly enough to cause significant damage in those zones. We also have a non-hatch, but still very dangerous 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gust potential that is going to turn pretty numerous in coverage for us here as we go into your Sunday afternoon. Portions of southern Ohio back into portions of northern Tennessee. That's where that enhanced risk is. And then your tornado outlook, this is mainly into portions of southeast Indiana and Kentucky, but we could also see that go back to the Little Rock area. These zones have at least that 5 to 9% chance of a tornado occurring, which is not zero within 25 miles of a point. So just make sure that you have your plan in place. Make sure you're ready to seek shelter in the lowest, most interior room if those tornado warnings do develop. We have medium levels of instability surging northward, but notice how it kind of forms this thin strand making its way on up to the Glove of Michigan for us here. We're not going to see much getting going yet by 1 p.m. Central Time, so any after-church stuff going on, any of that going on around midday, that's all looking good for your Sunday afternoon. Look at this until we get to 4 p.m., so your lunchtime might be good, but not your dinner time. These storms are going to start firing off northern Arkansas, again, big hailers to start with, and then these might turn into bigger wind events as they push eastward, some of these squall lines, maybe a couple of individual ones as they push through portions of Kentucky as well. Notice those isolated cells in Kentucky, again, could be that supercell form. Again, that's why your dinner time's not going to be very good in these zones. And then also notice kind of weakening as it pushes eastward towards Pennsylvania in that northern zone, as the HRRR model puts it. But this one in Alabama looks to gain steam and continue further south and east, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then look at that, some more rain and storms into West Virginia into the overnight hours and into Monday. We have a level 1 risk for flooding into these areas. We've had major drought on the drought monitor, so it's better to see a flooding potential than that. And this flooding potential is not all that high, so hopefully we won't see too many areas with ponding on the roadways. But remember to turn around, don't drown. Monday high temperatures forecasts look like this. Again, many of these temperatures in the triple digits remain in Texas, but still plenty of searing 90s in the surrounding areas, the Arklatex, Mississippi, Alabama getting into the 90s. Notice how we've got temperatures winding down a little bit. The worst of the 80s and 90s is not going to be into portions of the Ohio Valley anymore. The northeast will be pretty nice as we go into your Monday. Portions, and really the northern tier is just going to be better off on our Monday. Look at this, though, with some heat building into the mid-Atlantic ahead of the cold front, we will have the potential for not just severe weather, but flooding on top of that. Again, that does go down into the Carolina coastline as well. So this includes many areas from Myrtle Beach all the way to Wilmington, North Carolina. This goes on up into portions of Virginia Beach, and then all the way on up into Delaware, Trenton, New Jersey. All these zones need to watch out for that level 2 risk, especially for wind and hail as we go into our Monday as this front pushes off the coast. The risk goes all the way back to the Florida Panhandle, though. Look at how these storms fire up around 4 p.m. There's the area of low pressure responsible, and they will form a line and kind of push eastward, so there's going to be one main area of energy making its way off the coastline as the sun sets. That is why we do have a level 2 flood threat in this area. We've been seeing more rain within the last few days in this zone, which is why places from New Jersey and Pennsylvania back through North Carolina need to watch out for that flooding. Now, as we go into our Tuesday, look at how the rain just wraps around and continues into the northeast. Sorry, I skipped a slide there. Wednesday, more of that rain from portions of Pennsylvania all the way on up into New England. That continues into Thursday. That's what I'm wanting you to focus on right now. And that is why we will see some of these heavier downpours, and I am anticipating some flooding as we go to the midweek time frame with these repetitive downpours in the northeast. Any of the areas where you see more than the light blue into those purple shades, that's where you're looking at least 2 inches of rain, some spots up to 4 to 5, which is, again, why we're watching out for some of that flooding. That does include New York City, does include places like Hartford, Connecticut, all the way on up into Maine. Now, here's a look at your midweek upper air pattern. There's that system making its way off the east coast, but we're going to have new energy making its way in the west coast. And with this heat building up, this is going to be interesting for some of those storms. 80s working their way into the plains on Tuesday. Temperatures near 100 still in Texas, with 90s surging into the southeast. And look as we go towards Thursday how this heat builds eastward. 106-degree readings in western portions of Arkansas. It is going to be horrific, not terrific, in the portions of the Ozarks region for us there. Look at this, 90s in the southeast. It's going to be hot. That's going to be shifting eastward on Friday, so much of the southern and eastern tier of the country getting on these very hot temperatures, as well as back into Arizona, where it's not quite as uncommon for this time of the year. 70s in the portions of the northern tier on your Friday. Now, your late week upper air pattern. This area of blue doesn't look like much, but we're going to have areas of low pressure feeding out of the southwest, coming through the subtropical, as well as polar jet streams kind of combining. Those will be making their way around the ridge and diving on down into the southeast as it looks right now. So your severe certainty Wednesday with the storms in the plains, we have what I'm calling a level 1 of 4 risk for you here on the ONW scale. Portions of the Dakotas down to Missouri and Illinois for severe weather Wednesday. As we go into our Thursday, we're looking at a pretty good level 2 certainty for us here, medium certainty, eastern Wyoming, portions of South Dakota, as well as Nebraska. So kind of like what we had on our Friday here, just a couple days ago. That was our severe risk that's looking like this. And then look at how this kind of shifts east Friday. We're going to have areas of some storms circling around that ridge, which is going to be in here. And with the heat from the ridge getting into some of these zones right outside of it, that will help support those storms into portions of the southeast. The upcoming weekend upper air pattern looks to bring more cooler air in the upper levels, another storm system moving east, so another cold front. And we do need the energy in some of these areas. Drought monitor showing very high drought out of portions of the plains going over further east into the Great Lakes region. So we definitely need the rainfall. Now, one last thing I wanted to point out, Brett has dissipated as of your Saturday evening. Barely any tropical storm force winds left, but it is just a post-tropical cyclone at this point. Look at what it brought with it. You can see all the way from areas several hundred miles east of the Antilles, the Lesser Antilles for us here, through places like Barbados. We got these impacts into St. Lucia, and then they moved west and broke apart over the last few days. Also getting going out there is Tropical Storm Cindy. It looks pretty bad with the infrared imagery for us here, but it's really just a big blob of thunderstorms. Really not any circulation that looks too significant here. That's going to be making its way off to the north and west as a tropical storm. Notice it doesn't go beyond 3 days out because it's not expected to last beyond 3 days out. So Bermuda should not see any too significant of any impacts. But I did just want to point out to you here, here's the rainfall the next 7 days. Looking great for your drought relief in the many portions of the north and east. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and here are the credits.